Hi guys, welcome to our daily encounter. One of the major themes in Habakkuk is that of faith. As a matter of fact, one of the most famous verses from the book of Habakkuk is all about faith, and it's actually quoted by the Apostle Paul. And it's found in Habakkuk chapter 2 and verse 4, where it says, "But the righteous will live by his faith." And this book really does emphasize faith. As we see Habakkuk really challenged by the situations that he finds himself in, we see him come to express his own faith towards the end of the book. At the beginning, he's very perplexed at the evils that he saw in Judah, the evils that he saw all around him, the oppression, the violence, that sort of thing. And he comes to the Lord about it and says, God, how is it that you could allow these things to persist? And he was very challenged by the fact that God had not answered his prayers in dealing with the unrighteous people in Judah. But then the Lord reveals to him his plan. And he talks about the fact that the Babylonians were going to come in and really deal with the wicked people of Judah. And even then Habakkuk is challenged by this. And he says, how is it, Lord, that you could use a nation to destroy people more righteous than themselves? And so he's challenged by God's solution to the problem and his answer to Habakkuk's prayer. But as we get to the end of the book, we see Habakkuk really express what his name means. His name means embrace. And that's what we find at the end of the book. We find Habakkuk really embracing whatever it is that the Lord has planned for himself and for his people. At the end of the book, it says in chapter 3 and verse 17, "Though the fig tree should not blossom, and there be no fruit on the vines, though the yield of the olive should fail, and the fields produce no food, though the flocks should be cut off from the fold, and there be no cattle in the stalls, yet I will exult in the Lord. I will rejoice in the God of my salvation. The Lord God is my strength, and he has made my feet like hinds' feet, and makes me walk on my high places." There Habakkuk had come to embrace whatever the Lord had planned. Even if it means that the fig tree should not blossom, that there would be no fruit on the vines, that the olive should not, or that the tree should not yield olives, that the flock should be cut off from the fold, even if it meant that catastrophe would enter his own household, still he would trust in the Lord who was his strength. And that becomes really the picture of what faith is all about. Trusting in the Lord, no matter the circumstances, no matter what might come about, but holding on to the truth that God has a plan and that God's ways are higher than our ways and his thoughts higher than our thoughts, and trusting in the ways of the Lord. That's really what faith is all about. And we have a lot to learn from Habakkuk, because we too might have challenges of faith. We too might wonder, why does the Lord not answer my prayer? And then when the Lord does answer our prayers, we wonder, why did the Lord go about it in that way? And maybe the Lord acts in a way that isn't in accordance to our own desire or our own will. But we too have to become Habakkuk's. We have to be people who embrace the will of God. And that's an expression of faith, to where we recognize the fact that even though the worst might happen, even though catastrophe might enter into our lives, even though we might have to walk into the chaos, we will embrace it because it's a part of the will of the Lord. And we are willing to accept all that the Lord has planned because we trust in his thoughts, we trust in his wisdom, and we trust in his plans and his purposes. And so Habakkuk has a lot to offer us in strengthening our faith. It would have strengthened the faith of the exiles as they would have read this book and had recognized, what it really means to walk by faith and to embrace God's plans. But it helps us as well, too, as we walk day to day under the guidance of God. So let's be encouraged by the book of Habakkuk. Let's be encouraged to walk a life of faith. The righteous shall live by his faith. And that faith is a faith that trusts the Lord, that embraces all that the Lord has in store for the individual, and is willing to accept those things because he or she knows that no matter what happens, the Lord will supply the strength to get through the circumstances and situations that God places the individual in. So let's embrace our lives. Let's embrace God's plan for our lives. Let's stick to the Lord, hold fast to the Lord until we see the other side, until we see what the Lord has planned for us, and just place our trust in Him each and every day as we walk in this sometimes very treacherous life. So with that, guys, I do thank you for watching the video today. Hope you guys have a great day. Love you guys. God bless.